If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
Into the silo.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
And welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show for this 13th of April.
Oh, thank you. What a day. You know, I appreciate you welcoming me, Sean. It's a pleasure working with you again and being here in studio with you. I want to thank you for showing here, being here, and allowing us to do the show together. It's really an honor and a privilege. And so I want to turn this around finally and say thank you for joining us here today. And it's really a pleasure working with you and being able to get this going and talk to the folks out there and, you know, be up on current events.
You're welcome. Just the easiest thing to say. You're welcome. Here, play with this ball while the big boys do some work over here.
Oh, there's two of them. That's weird.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I saw this great picture online, and it's a picture of Washington crossing the Delaware.
Uh-huh.
And underneath it says...
So is it a painting or a picture? Because I don't think there were cameras back then.
No, it's a Kodak. It's weird.
Oh, weird. Okay.
But underneath it says, Americans, willing to cross a frozen river to kill you, in your sleep, on Christmas. Totally not kidding. We've done it before.
Will you send that to me? Yes. Because I need that. That is amazing.
I figured you would like that one. That's why I saved that for you. Good evening to everyone filing into the chat room.
Especially given the fact that is our Christmas tradition story.
It so is, so it's even better.
Right.
Thank you to the exceptional one, Ken McClinton, for wearing out the crowd mentally, so now they can just sit there unable to turn off the stream. And
you know, I've been unable to turn off the stream before. Usually after like a few beers.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Or you kind of like stop it temporarily because once you break the seal,
all done.
It's done. Yeah, you're not
thimble bladder.
You're not sitting down.
I will rate the fastest you'll ever see me run is probably when I've had a couple beers. And for
right. No, this is true, folks.
For everyone who wants the picture, I'm putting it up on my Facebook, Sackhead Sean, right now. But yeah, that's about the only time I run anymore. And it's a necessity, really. Thank you to everyone in the chat room. If you aren't in the chat room, I'm disappointed in you. However, you can make up for it by going to shrmedia.com and clicking on the live chat button, middle right of the page, a little ways down.
Middle-ish, right-ish.
Middle-ish, right-ish. A lot to talk about this evening. The big board is just filled with topics. I have a couple other ones that I may sneak in here and there if I have the opportunity to. How are you, my friend?
Good.
Good. Everything going well?
Uh-huh.
Good. I'm very glad to hear that. Not the best color man in the business for nothing, Johnny. What was that, Major League?
Yes. Yes. I actually, okay. So to get baseball season in full swing,
Yep.
no pun intended, I've been watching Bull Durham.
Love Bull Durham. Great movie.
My favorite, right? My favorite. So I watched Bull Durham just to get ready for baseball season, kind of had it playing in the background. What a great movie.
Awesome movie. Awesome movie.
Just
I wish I knew
phenomenal.
I wish I knew you were going to bring that. I would have got clips to play. Such a great movie. So many great lines in that one movie. Great cast.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone down, of course, Kevin Costner was amazing, but Nuke, what's his face?
Nuke Lelouch.
Yes, Lelouch. Even though the actor who plays him is a complete screwball, he did a great job in that movie. Everyone just did. That was great.
Why is he calling me meat? I drive the Porsche. With a quadraphonic Blaupunkt. You don't need a quadraphonic Blaupunkt. What you need is a breaking ball.
All right. Big Mouth Patriot in the chat room wants to point out that it's a great movie, but it's not necessarily a baseball movie. Baseball was in it. It was a big part of it, but it wasn't based around baseball per se. It was
Bull Durham?
It was based around a love story.
I'm
going to
disagree.
I can see that.
I can see it, but I'm going to disagree. I think it was a story about.
But it's not like The Natural.
No,
which
it's not
was
like
a pure
The Natural.
baseball movie. You know what I mean?
This was or The Sandlot.
The Sandlot, great movie.
Right,
You're
great.
killing me, Smalls.
It was Baby Ruth.
Great flick. Another great Major League.
Major League, yeah.
But that was kind of the same as Bull Durham, though.
For me, I think Bull Durham was a baseball movie because it's really about the maturity coming along of Nuke Lelouch and really his his career as it was beginning. Got $100. Say I get us a rain out for tomorrow.
No, it was a awesome movie. Obviously, just great, great cast, great writing. Candlesticks.
Candlesticks make a great gift. We're dealing with a lot of out here.
And the line, I can't remember, but the pitching coach, who is awesome, he's like, what the hell are they talking about there? And I can't remember what he says to the skipper, but he says something that's hysterical, and they're like, get your ass out there and go see what's going on. And he goes trotting out with his hands in his pockets.
You lollygag around the infield. You lollygag to first base. You know what that makes you, Lou? Lollygaggers, sir? Lollygaggers. This is a very simple game. You throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball.
Another great, actually, Ken brought up a good movie, and I'm going to see your opinion on this.
A basketball movie?
No.
What, Space Jam?
Air
Because
Bud.
that's a good one.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Air Bud. No. A League of Their Own. Good baseball movie or not a baseball movie?
I would consider that a baseball movie.
I'd consider that a good baseball movie,
Yeah.
actually. I very much enjoy A League of Their Own.
Yeah, absolutely. Madonna.
Yeah, they got a lot of people.
Right.
What's her name was smoking hot in that movie. The redhead.
Yes, I know who you're
she's
talking about.
The amazing archer as well. She was in the Olympics. Gina Davis.
Yes.
She was amazingly hot. Ken McClinton has been pointing out all night that it is a blockbuster night here on SHR Media. And I will agree with that.
I don't know what I'm so non-racist that I don't know what he means by that.
Oh,
what?
Dan has a great quote, and I want to see if you can figure this out.
Okay, go.
I won't even do the voice because that'll give away.
What?
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled like an army of steamrollers. It has been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, it's part of our past.
Is it Field of Dreams?
Yes.
Boom.
Yes. Another great
Another
movie.
great movie. That's more about a cornfield, though. And a little girl choking on a hot dog.
Yeah.
That's what that's about.
And there was a lot of big names in that movie you didn't even realize. Ray Liotta was in that. He played his dad.
Oh, yeah. James Earl Jones.
Darth
Vader.
Costner.
Darth Vader was in it.
Darth Vader was in it as Darth Vader, which was kind of weird.
Which was a little bit weird, if you think about it.
What?
Moneyball.
Moneyball
Another
was a
great
great movie
baseball,
about Billy
yeah.
Bean. Yeah, great movie. How he changed the face of baseball and how the game's really financially how it's put together today.
Right, because of
he
Billy
went
Ball.
against the grain. He went against what everyone else used to do, and he started looking.
Turned Boston Red Sox down at the end.
Yeah, no, he did, and that worked out well for him.
You don't need to be a jerk about it.
But yeah, Moneyball was great.
Look, I give a guy credit, any guy. If it was a Boston guy that would have stayed with Boston for less money and turned Oakland down, I get because that's so rare today in sports.
The loyalty is enormous.
Absolutely.
Ken wants to point out that he says, Bull, the Field of Dreams is about government intervention in building stadiums. Finance it and we can tax the people. Cal Fritzy says one of the greatest scenes in movie history came from Moneyball.
Which one?
I'm waiting for it. I'm looking for everyone else to jump in the chat room, shrmedia.com. Tell me what your favorite baseball
I want to know what the
movie is.
greatest scene in American movie history.
Well, she's Canadian, so the standards may be vastly different.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the dollar exchange to the Canadian loon or whatever it is.
Don't call her that. Come on. Kel, I apologize that my partner called you a Canadian loon. You have excellent taste, obvious, by the fact that you listen to this show. Don't call our listeners loons. What is wrong with you?
Oh, Walter Matthau, The Bad News Bears. That's another classic baseball movie.
I went to school. I went to elementary school with one of the kids that was in that movie.
No way.
I did.
That's awesome.
He was the kid in the outfield that threw his glove down and said, crap, or whatever he says. I went to school with that kid, elementary school. Oh, it's a great
awesome.
movie. Because I'm pretty sure I played for that team.
Oh, everybody played for that, right?
Yes.
I can tell you right now, Malden Little League, I played for the Romans. That was the Bad News Bears.
Right, and you still have the helmet.
I still have the shirt, and it fits.
You still have the helmet.
I still have the helmet.
You love that Roman helmet.
It was amazing.
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, Google Roman helmet. Safe search off.
No.
Sean loves it. Okay, just Urban Dictionary.
And, of course, I got to throw in, just because, Fever Pitch.
That's like throwing in, what's the kid who hurt his arm, and so he ended up throwing
Yeah, but you know what? Gary Busey was in that. Oh,
yes.
wow. You know what's funny is my kid watches that all the time now. He loves that movie.
It's actually been on cable.
Yes.
Lately, yeah.
And the kid who played him is now a big actor, and I can't remember his name, but he's in a bunch of different movies now, too. Summer Catch. Summer Catch was another great one.
Yeah, I don't know what that one.
That was with Freddie Prinze Jr.
8 Men Out.
8 Men Out was an outstanding one. Summer Catch was Freddie Prinze Jr. On the Cape League. You don't remember that one?
No, I don't.
That was a pretty good one as well. There's a lot of good baseball movies.
I still like Major League.
Yeah. Oh, Major League was awesome.
But Bill, I'm sorry, Bull Durham has to be my favorite.
I guess it's what you're trying to take out of it. You know, like you said, you're looking at the one player coming up and another player going down, and that whole duality.
Exactly. I need a nickname, Skipper. Don't you think I need a nickname? What was that nickname you had for me? Pokey.
Jackie Robinson's story was absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. But I don't and that's one of those things that I don't look at the movie as a movie. I look at it as a biography, and it's almost like a documentary, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd actually read multiple stories about Jackie Robinson.
Yep, a biogramentary.
Yeah, biogramentary, autobiogramentary.
Right, which means it writes itself.
But when they do things about like Jackie, Babe Ruth, stuff like that, I don't necessarily enjoy the movies as much because I go back and I watch and read and learn about the person themselves.
It actually happened. Like it's not like it's a new story being told.
Right, and that for me, I think the history of baseball is amazing. Branch there who called him up and wasn't afraid, and Branch Rickey for the back in the day. The amount of intestinal fortitude to not only recognize what an amazing athlete Jackie Robinson was, and also that he had the tenacity and the gumption, if you will, to be able to deal what he knew he would be dealing with and make that determination and potentially throw everything he had away.
Right.
And he still did it, and of course, now to this day, one of the greatest players to ever grace the field. And like I said, as much as Branch Rickey recognized him, none of that would have been there if Jackie Robinson wasn't the person and athlete that he was. If he wasn't able to deal with the pressure, if he bowed out, if he buckled, he picked the right person, and thank goodness.
I have a legitimate question.
Yeah.
The President of the United States, President Obama, is a Chicago White Sox fan. Correct?
He says he is.
He says he is.
Have you ever seen him throw a ball? I don't think he's much for baseball.
He says he is. But now, when they did go through a period where they were known as the Chicago Black Sox.
Yes. Oh,
so is that really why he likes them?
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
I don't know. I don't even know why.
I think that's a valid question. Because we know typically he's not so fond of white. And he's very fond of black.
8 Men Out. Was that the one, John Cusack, about the Chicago?
Yes, about
White
the Black
Sox.
Sox.
Yeah, Black Sox. It was the Black Sox.
Yes,
at the
it
time,
was.
and all the
Because,
cheating and
the cheating or the throwing of the World Series. And Shoeless Joe Jackson might have actually been.
Yeah, there's
innocent.
a lot. So there's a lot of really good baseball movies out there. I don't care what anyone says. It's still.
By the way, 2 of those movies Kevin Costner was in, Field of Dreams and Bull Durham.
Yeah, and like I said, for me, Major League has to be one of my favorite comedic baseball.
Oh, really?
movies.
Even over Bull Durham? I don't know.
Bull Durham had a lot more substance to it as far as like a story.
Yes.
As far as the comedy part of it, you can't beat Major. Bob
She's
Uecker.
not woolly. Women don't get woolly; they get weary.
Bob Uecker alone was absolutely hysterical in Major League. What difference does it make? Nobody's listening to the goddamn thing anyhow. Like, just he's drunk, and I just love that. And then the skipper and the whole movie was awesome.
Watching the soap opera at the end. Yeah. I love this British shit.
That was in the second one.
Was it?
That was when Jake had to become the skipper.
Oh, that's right.
Lou had a heart attack. Yep.
That's right.
Nice arm, kid. Where you been playing? California Penal League. Just a great movie. So, all right, we're all caught up. Let's get rolling. We have a whole.
Look, I have Clinton Block to start this off with. I actually have 2 things for Clinton Block. Number 1. So I have to give former President Bill Clinton a little bit of props here because he actually went off on
his senility's doing good.
He on last Thursday, he actually went off on Black Lives Matters a little bit. Black Lives Matter protesters a little bit. They were talking about he was at an event, he was speaking, and they started giving him a bunch of garbage. And they were upset about his 94 bill that he signed into law that increased prison sentences for gang-related offenses. Because why wouldn't you be pissed off about that?
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, why would you want gang-related offenses and gangbangers, why wouldn't you want them out on the street with everybody else? You would. So Black Lives Matter is basically saying that, that bill hurt African Americans more than it hurt anybody else, and they were upset. Mm-hmm. And Bill Clinton didn't back down. And he said, quote, "I talked to a lot of African American groups. They thought Black Lives mattered. They said, take this bill because our kids are being shot in the street by gangs. We had 13-year-old kids planning their own funerals." And another protester yelled at him, "Black youth are not super predators," which they were talking about a statement that Clinton made when she was First Lady at the time. And Bill Clinton hit back again, and he said, quote, "I don't know how you would characterize the gang leaders who got 13-year-old kids hopped up on crack and sent them out onto the streets to murder other African-American children. Maybe you thought they were good citizens."
Wow.
Yeah. And then he goes, "She didn't," defending his wife, saying, "Hey, you might have thought they were good people. My wife didn't." He then went on to say, and he got heated, and he started raising his voice, and he said, "You're defending the people who killed the lives you say matter. Tell the truth. You're defending the people who caused young people to go out and take guns."
Wow.
Yeah.
Senility's a bitch.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess when you retire from everything and you've never really done too much work in your life, you can say whatever the hell you want.
But he told the truth.
But he picked the right thing to say.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then he topped it all off by making a reference to his welfare reform bill in 96, where he said, "They say the welfare reform bill increased poverty. Then why did we have the largest drop in African American poverty in history when I was president?" And by the way, with that welfare reform, pretty sure conservatives want to do that now. And it worked when Bill Clinton did it. That's just a side note. Don't let me get carried away.
I'm being told he did eventually walk back his statement about this, and I don't have confirmation of that outside of
I don't
chat.
either, but good for him for sacking up live and in person and saying it.
Yeah, but then, right. Of course he's going to walk it back. It's good to be drunk before you speak, Ken says. Of course he's going to walk it back.
We do it almost every week.
Because his wife needs the votes. So he's going to walk it back because that's the prudent thing to do politically. But him getting aggravated and speaking from the heart,
yes,
that's the truth.
Exactly. And kudos to him.
Yeah,
he might have to walk it back because his wife's running for president. And, I mean, that is what it is, whatever. I don't think he should walk it back, but I'm talking about good job to Bill Clinton for speaking out on it.
No, and you know what? He's not wrong.
No, I think he's completely right. Which got me thinking. I started thinking about reform and immigration and so forth. And you know what we need?
She's beating him and making him take it back.
She's beating him and making him take it.
Yeah.
That would have been better. That's all you had to say.
Or back.
Right,
Whatever.
or back. No, you could have left that off. Do you remember when we had the Office of Indian Affairs?
Yes.
We need an Office of Immigrant Affairs.
Ooh.
Oh, wait, that idea just came out by Hillary Clinton.
Really?
Yes.
We have that. It's called the INS.
No, we don't, apparently. No.
Okay.
No, today, Hillary Clinton came out and said that she wants to create a new government office, because that's what we need, more government, and she wants to call it the Office of Immigrant Affairs.
So is this going to be an office that, looks into the love life and the cheating of immigrants and all the affairs? You know, it's funny for a woman who's dealt with a lot of affairs in her life.
Right.
Oh.
Not those kind of affairs.
A better name.
Not those kind of affairs. Yeah, and why do we care if immigrants are having affairs?
Right.
Why do we care about the breakdown in their family unit? Why aren't we looking at the Office of American Affairs? Right? Or the Office of Nurse Affairs, because some of them like to do that apparently. Or the Office of
Good
Right?
night.
Where are you going, Sean?
Good night.
Where are you going?
I gotta throw a flag on this play.
What are you throwing a flag about?
Go on, just continue.
I'm just throwing stuff out there hypothetically.
Just in case.
Just in case. I know a lot of great nurses.
Office of Bathroom Server Affairs. That's a good one too. So Hillary wants to expand government. Yet again.
Yeah. What's the matter? What's the matter, Sean?
Oh, someday, folks, when you read Clint's autobiography, it'll all make sense. What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
By Sackhead Clint.
Hold my beer. Watch this.
What's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst that could happen?
Well, I think this is a brilliant idea. You know, good for her for finding a new and exciting way to waste taxpayers' money. Now, you would think that she would just...
Well, no, hang on. This office is going to make sure that immigrants have access to adult education.
Which they do.
English language classes.
Which they do.
Getting rid of those pesky barriers.
Son of a bitch.
To naturalization.
Yeah.
Although they're not naturalized. Maybe they are. Yeah, I don't know. Providing support for
you
immigrant
wouldn't want those
services.
barriers to remain in the way. And now, don't get me wrong.
Immigration navigators who can provide the critically needed services that our immigrant communities need to be fully able to thrive in America. Now, one thing I do note is they're not saying it's not the Office of Criminal Immigrant Affairs.
Right, which is weird.
So maybe this is an office for people that are here legally to help integrate into our society.
I'm not totally against that.
Right? But it doesn't need to be its whole. Its entire...
INS could do that if they're here legally. But listen, we both know this isn't for the good people who are trying to come here legally.
It's not, because it doesn't say it's only for people who are here illegally.
Right. She doesn't even. You know what? They don't even consider those people when they talk about immigrants and immigration. They could care less about those people. The ones who work hard in their country and strive to be an American and save up all their money, sell their worldly goods, and take a chance to cross an ocean and live in the land of the free and home of the brave. The people who built this country and the people who will continue to make this country better are citizens who come here and actually have the American dream and want to follow it.
Uh-huh.
That's not who this is at all looking at. This isn't... She doesn't even know those friggin' people exist. She's talking about the 10,000 Syrians we're bussing over, the Mexicans coming over the south. I mean, that's what she's worried about.
You know what? I might be more against this if there were reports by reputable agencies or academies that found that immigrants integrated well without federal programs. I would be more apt to call BS on this.
Yes.
Oh, wait. Did you know that there are 3 reports on assimilation put out? One by the National Academy of Science, one by University of Washington economist.
Oh, wait. There might be 3 reports that are just like that from 3 totally independent places.
Well, right. And another independent report put out by the OECD and the European Commission all talked about how immigrants assimilate better with no federal intervention. Damn it.
Weird.
I hate it when the facts contradict what we're trying to do.
So, on one hand, you have 3 independent places saying, hey, you know it's a horrible idea?
Right, or hey, you know what?
Things like the Department of Immigrant Affairs.
They actually do just fine without the federal government.
That would have been great if they listed that specifically.
Yes. So let's look at another point of view on this, right? If there were some perhaps non-government groups who could advocate for immigrants and help them get services or whatever, then maybe, I'd be more likely. Hey, you know what? There's not these other groups to kind of help out.
Well, there
are these other groups.
Yeah, I was going to say
that help out.
Did you hear about the guy in the Bay Area that's duping all the illegals into thinking you can adopt them?
No.
Adults?
No. There's Refugee Council USA.
Uh-huh.
U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants. U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops Migration and Refugee Services. National Network for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. Casa de Maryland. Yeah, I got nothing. All my arguments were blown out of the water.
So
sorry, Hill Dog. I tried to help.
Fortunately, the Hill Dog is on point with this amount of BS.
I tried to help. We're up against a break.
We are up against a break. Before we go to break, hold on.
What?
I want to say a very happy birthday.
To who? Who are we singing to?
We're not singing.
Why?
Because we don't sing well.
We don't have to sing well. It's the thought that counts, Sean.
Alexandria Butcher, Dan Butcher's oldest daughter. It's her 15th birthday today. So
15th?
Wish her a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Are we going to sing?
No.
Why?
I think she specifically requested we didn't.
Maybe she specifically requested that you didn't.
All right, you sing.
Or that I didn't.
I'm going to go to break.
I think you should sing. Let's sing our way to break.
Are you kidding me?
Do I look like I'm kidding?
1,
2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday, dear.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Cap was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm being told if you have an issue with the chat, just hit the refresh and it should get you right back into it. That's what I'm told. I've had no issues with it, but I don't mess with it too much. So, I
haven't had any issues with it tonight.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. I feel so much better now. No issues at all, you say?
No, not with chat.
Okay, good. Let's move to another beautiful little city, Chicago.
Sounds like such a nice city.
It's
the Windy City.
The Windy City.
Mm-hmm.
It sits right there in Lake Michigan. Beautiful rivers. Food is great.
Michigan, another beautiful place.
Yeah, I mean it's really a lovely. Other than the exorbitant crime rate that's going on right now, just to give you a little hint, there's a great website called HeyJackass.com. It's spelled just like it sounds, and it's called Illustrating Chicago Values. And it has, quite specifically, every single violent crime in Chicago to date. And it's actually really well done. I'm kind of amazed. There is some comedy. So, like, some of them is the 2016 shot in the ass meter. There's been 50 people shot in the ass in Chicago year to date so far.
Wow.
Total number of selfies with shooting victims, 17. But it also...
Wow.
It also has some other serious numbers that are just disturbing. Total shot and killed year to date, 146 people. Shot and wounded. Are you ready for this? What do you just estimate? What do you think shot and wounded is?
350.
774.
Wow.
Shot and wounded.
Wow, the police department's just ridiculous over there.
Yes.
That's all law enforcement shootings, right?
No, this is just illegal crime-related shootings. Total amount of people shot in Chicago, 920 year to date. Total homicide.
Obviously, that's wrong because guns are pretty much banned there,
right,
for all intents and purposes. So that's obviously these numbers are skewed.
I'm not done yet.
These are like from the inception of the city, right?
No, this is year to date. 2016 stats.
Wait, we're only into April.
Yeah. Total homicides in the city is 166. So out of the total homicides,
most of them have to be like knives, frying pans.
20 of them are knife out of 146.
Oh, the rest must be like poisoning.
All gunshots.
Hanging.
All
Wait,
guns.
what?
Yes.
How can that be?
In the city of Chicago, and this is through April 11th of this year, 2 hours and every 41 minutes, a person is shot. Every 14 hours and 45 minutes, a person is shot and killed or is murdered. The deadliest hoods are Austin, Garfield Park, Inglewood, Humboldt Park, and North Lawndale. It's amazing to me. But now we go to the interesting part, because Chicago's Mayor Rahm Emanuel sidesteps his authority a little bit and ordered a task force to investigate the Chicago Police Department on charges of racism. And amazingly, the people that he paid to find a problem with his police department to make them the problem with the violence in the city. So immediately, all this is Rahm Emanuel saying, hey, we have a ridiculously violent city where people are killing each other left and right.
Right.
It has to be the racist police's fault.
Yes.
That's
the problem?
All it could be. So they sent out this committee, and it's very horrific if you look at the numbers that they present as to what's the problem is. The task force amassed data that shows the extent to which African Americans appear to be disproportionately focused on by the Chicago police. In a city where whites, black, and Hispanics each make up about a third of the population, 74% of the 404 people shot by the Chicago Police Department between 2008 and 2015 were black. Black people were the subject in 72% of the thousands of investigative street stops that did not lead to an arrest during the summer of 2014. It goes on to say 3 out of every 4 people of whom the Chicago police officer tried to use a taser on between 2002 and 2015 were black. And black drivers made up 46% of police traffic stops back in 2013.
Clearly that means the department's racist.
The task force cited the community's lack of trust in CPD is justified. According to reports, a draft summary which was first given to the Chicago Tribune on Tuesday, there is substantial evidence that people of color, particularly African Americans, have been disproportionately negative experience with the police over an extended period of time. Now I want to go back to HeyJackass.com for a second. The 2016 victim and assailant statistics on the violent crimes so far year to date. Out of races, the victim, black Americans, 116 versus 19% assailant rate. Hispanic, 43 victims versus 4 known assailants. White were 7 victims, 1 assailant. The police were 0 and 3 assailants. No arrests for the victims, 0. Arrests of assailants that have committed the crimes, 139. So, if you look at the majority, at least based on this website, which appears to really have their statistics down, it would appear that black and Hispanics make up a majority of the violent crime using weapons in the greater Chicago area. Now, let's go back to the Chicago Police Department task force that was set forth. What did they think was going to come out of this?
This task force?
This task force.
I think this task force had its mind made up, and they looked for numbers just to paint whatever picture they wanted. I don't think it was a true independent review.
Right.
That's my thoughts. That's what I believe.
I would have to agree with you. And it sounds very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Jaded? Mm-hmm. And I expected it. I expected it to be jaded, only because it's Rahm Emanuel, first of all. There's been a lot of pressure on the mayor's office to deal with the surging and violent
police officers
crime that is in Chicago, and specifically the South Side. Now, if you go to Chicago, and I have a nephew that lives there, I've been to Chicago a few times. Everyone knows that you don't go to the South Side of Chicago. If you look at any sort of gang documentaries, crime documentaries that take place in Chicago, it's all the same couple of areas. They're run by gangs. You have the 4 C's, the 4 Corner Boys, et cetera, that are extremely violent. You have areas of the city that the police department will not go into without 3 or 4 units because they get shot at on a regular basis. It's completely a mess in Chicago. But this has nothing to do with the police. And listen, I'm not going to say that the Chicago police are these... Everybody who puts on a uniform in that city is an innocent person who is void of racism. I will absolutely agree that there could be a very tiny percentage who
could be, but we don't know.
We don't know. But if you just look at statistics, just the amount of officers that they employ, odds are that you will have a very small amount of people who don't follow the rules.
They're knuckleheads in every profession.
No matter what.
No matter what.
That being said, they are also trying to police one of the most violent city in America. Mm-hmm. They don't have a great budget. They have very poor leadership. They have for years.
Yeah, look who their mayor is.
Right. They have a mayor who completely hates the Chicago Police Department because he's making them look bad in his opinion. They're the scapegoat. Mm-hmm. We saw this we saw crime of this nature recently in New York before Rudy Giuliani stepped in. And what did Giuliani do?
Stop and frisk.
A lot of things, right? Zero tolerance in certain areas.
Yep.
Got the DA's office to agree to go full bore on any crimes that come out of these areas. Stop and frisk. Anti-crime units where they just really went in and focused, et cetera, et cetera. The Chicago Police and the police department had the support.
And it's weird because they made a difference.
Right. And the NYPD at the time had the support of their mayor, their city council, and the citizenry. Why did the citizenry support the NYPD when they made these changes? And again, NYPD had a history of some bad cops that were there in the 70s and 80s. They were no angels. But they weeded them out, and they turned it around. And they had the backing of the citizenry because the leadership in that city said, no, these are the guys that are going to make the difference, and gals. These are the folks that are going to go out there and make your community safer. Now, is it going to be 100% safe in every city? No, of course not. You can't stop every crime. We know that. But you look at Times Square, what Rudy Giuliani did in Times Square. Times Square before Giuliani was a disaster area. I mean, it was like the Bronx with show tunes. And then they went in. They put a cop on every single corner. They completely got rid of the massage parlors and the strip joints and all the houses of ill fame, if you will, for numerous violations.
That was right about the time Big Fat Paulie said he wasn't going anywhere anymore, right?
That's the time he moved back from New York for some reason.
Yeah, that's weird.
He did live in New York during that time. So, but, they worked with the community. They listened to the community. And then they got behind the police department and allowed the police department to actually go out and make a difference. And they did. Now we go back to Chicago, where it's Chicago politics as usual. And everyone wants to bring up the one cop who was on video shooting that kid who was on PCP with the knife and talking about how he murdered him, et cetera, et cetera. And we talked about that a couple months ago. The dash cam footage that was there.
Guy had a knife.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
That's the thing. That's the thing that everybody wants to bring up. Just yesterday,
bring it up.
And this tells you how often the Chicago Police Department are involved in incidents. Just yesterday, there was a shooting of a 16-year-old kid who was armed.
Guy, suspect.
Whatever. Yeah, suspect.
I can't call him a kid. I'm sorry. If you think you're old enough to run around with a gun and
yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
And of course, before anything transpired, before anyone knew what was happening, all that got out there is that the police shot a 16-year-old guy with a gun. Or they didn't even put out with a gun right away. That just came out today. The fact that he was
16-year-old black kid,
right? And everybody's protesting.
Cop shot him. Yep.
And that shows you what's wrong with the city of Chicago, right? The assumption is that it was an illegal act. We've seen this in Baltimore. We saw this in St.
Everywhere.
Louis. We've seen
this at the White House.
We've seen it at the White House, where everyone makes the assumption
that the cops are wrong.
But it turns out, and apparently, there's some footage that this kid had a gun, ran from the police. When he was pretty much cornered, he turned and raised his gun at the police, and he was shot and killed.
Sounds like a win for the good guys.
It's tragic for his family, but it
is tragic for his family.
Decision.
Absolutely.
He made that decision.
Yes. What are the cops supposed to do?
Right. Get shot at.
Get shot and killed first?
Right. So when you...
And then what? It's self-defense because the kid felt threatened by the cops?
And it just goes on. And here's the problem with the victim mentality in this country. And Chicago's the prime example. These folks think... oh, good. And by the way, just so you know, this panel was advised by Governor Deval Patrick.
Good.
Yeah, so that shows you where it is. And Lori Lightfoot, who's the president of the Chicago Police Board and Oversight Group, was the chairwoman.
Oh.
Yeah, so
perfect.
They were racially diverse with professional backgrounds in social work, law, and government. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, completely. And I'm sure they were all from various political ideologies.
Yep. And it was just crazy. So you look at this, and they throw out these numbers and these stats that don't match up with the reality. Now, listen, if every other shooting in Chicago is bad, I'll give you every 10th shooting involving police in Chicago is bad, then we can have a conversation. But it's not. It's not the police who are the problem in Chicago. It is the people who live there. And the police are the scapegoat. And Rahm Emanuel, who, by the way, is an Obamaite and understands how to do the Alinsky-like politics, just keep saying the lie until it becomes the truth. Never let a good tragedy go to waste. His exact words, Rahm Emanuel.
Yep.
And for months now, the people in the city have been calling for him to do something. And instead of, I don't know, putting more cops in the street, he forms this committee with a whole bunch of political hacks to turn around and blame the police for the actions of criminals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely insane. Oh, and by the way, there's another great article out there in this one, which you sent to me, published 2 days ago in Fox News by Jennifer Hickey, titled, Chicago's Grim Murder Trend Blamed on Light Sentencing. Misguided Reforms.
Weird.
What?
Weird.
Well, this is impossible because they just said that the crime problem is because the people don't
cops. Yeah.
This story.
Ruh-roh.
Starts off, speaking of this guy by the name of Lamar Harrison, who has had 7 felony convictions and 43 arrests when he shot...
No, that's not true. He couldn't have because he would have been reformed by then.
When he shot 3 Chicago police officers that same week.
Obviously, it's false because of gun again.
Samuel Harvillay, who had just been paroled after serving less than half of his sentence for carjacking.
Armed carjacking.
Shot another police officer. Police officials, researchers, and many elected leaders all agree that the pair were prime examples of the violent pool of criminal driving the city's historically high crime rate.
I have a question.
Yes.
How is it? Why don't they pass a law there that prohibits convicted felons from possessing a firearm?
They have that.
Well, then how did these guys get guns, Sean?
I don't know, Margot.
I don't know, Margot.
And essentially, the study done by the Manhattan Institute essentially is saying that because they're not actually enforcing the law enough on the judicial side, once the arrests are made, they're not going to jail for the full length of time, which if you live in California, you see this all the time in California.
And they're looking to get rid of minimum mandatory sentencing.
And one of the people who ran the study, Heather McDonald from the Manhattan Institute, said, hey, we're not incarcerating a bunch of harmless sacks who are merely caught with a joint. And it's true. If you look down the rate of people who are committing the crimes, many of them have previous felonies. Many of them have a violent crime prior to that. Anthony Guglielmelli, who's the spokesperson for Chicago PD, he said gun arrests have been up 43% since mid-February, and arrests for homicide have been up 40% for the entire month. We are arresting people, Guglielmelli said, and we are arresting the right people. We are facing a long-term problem that the individuals are not being held accountable for their gun crimes. We need to do is remove this repeat offender from society because they are exacerbating the problem of crime.
They're doing what?
Exacerbating.
Is that a sex crime?
No, it's not what you thought that was.
Oh.
Making it worse. So, you look at Chicago, and it's a tale of two cities depending on who you're talking to. And it's, the problem in Chicago, this is the city.
Is Rahm Emanuel.
Well, he's one of the problems in Chicago. But this is a city whose gang problem was so bad, we've talked about this before, a 9-year-old little boy was shot multiple times in the chest, point blank, because his father was a gang member, and a opposing gang member shot and killed his kid. That is Chicago summed up in a nutshell.
Yes.
And it's a problem. We can say it's a black problem, it's a white problem. It doesn't matter. What matters is it's a violent city. Why is it violent? Because it's allowed to be. The citizens who live there allow their children to grow up not respecting other people's lives and property. And you have a city, Rahm Emanuel, who's trying to blame the police for the actions of lunatics. And again, if rapes were up 4,000% in the city of Chicago, would they be blaming the women wearing the shorter skirt? Oh, you can't. If they wouldn't wear the short skirt, this couldn't have happened.
Right.
Or are you going to blame the monster who's committing the act? When you get to cities like Chicago, why aren't we blaming the monsters who are committing the act? And as we've said before, if one of those monsters happens to be a peace officer, just the same. Just the same. It doesn't matter. What matters is there needs to be a change in the citizenry there. They need to realize that the kids who are hanging on their stoop dealing dope is the problem. Not the guy in the white and blue car that shows up or the gal in the white and blue car and tries to stop them. When you have people committing crimes, and a majority of them in the neighborhoods that have the worst problem are African American, then of course your numbers with African Americans are going to go up. It's not because the police are racist. It's because statistically that is what is going to happen. If I walk into a room with 100 white guys and 50% of them go to jail, then you could say that every white guy in that place is a criminal? No. But on the other hand...
No, but clearly the cops are racist because they're targeting white guys.
Right. And if they are, then they should go to jail. But everyone you arrest in that room is going to be what? White. That's just how it works.
No, Sean.
It's statistics.
No.
And when you're cherry picking around in your numbers and you go all the way back to 2012 for this specific number and then up to 2015 and 16 for these numbers, I mean, you look at some of the just...
in 2013, on Tuesdays,
yeah,
between 1 and 103...
I mean, this is kangaroo court. If you look at some of the numbers that they cited, you're just like, how does that even seem like it's a legitimate report?
Because it happened, Sean.
You know, between 2008 and 2015, of the 404 people who were shot by the Chicago police were black. 74% of them were black.
How many of those were...
Well, what about 2010 to 2016? What were the numbers on that? Why did you pick those 7 years? Oh, because during those 7 years, the numbers went to the favor of what you were trying to prove?
I don't know. How many of those? So here would be the more telling statistic, right? Of those shootings, of those police-related shootings, how many were unjustified? Of the unjustified shootings, what was the racial breakdown?
Right.
If 75% of the shootings were African Americans, and of those 75, 50% were unjustified, and they were all black, there may be a problem.
Exactly.
But if there were, how many officer-involved shootings?
404?
404 shootings, and if 10 were unjustified, and 5 were white and 5 were black, or Asia,
I'll give you 6 and 4.
6 and 4, or 3 and 4, or whatever it is, then guess what? You don't have a race problem necessarily.
Right. You have a crime problem. And I say this before. By the way, I'm being told if everybody refreshes their chat room right now, we should all be on the same page again. But I said it before and I say it again. Everyone's so worried about who to blame, and they want to blame everyone but themselves, except for the police department, who still, after the scathing report, that's total bullshit in my humble opinion, have to go out now and answer calls for service in these communities, and their job just got 10 times harder.
Yes.
Because of shit like this.
Yes, and cops are already getting killed.
Yeah.
Look, people are already trying to look. What are the numbers on the felonious assaults on cops?
Through the roof.
Through the roof. It's ridiculous. I mean, cops are getting. There was just a California Highway Patrol officer who was just intentionally run down.
Yeah.
Trying to kill because this a-hole.
Yep.
Decided to engage in some crime and intentionally ran this officer down.
Yeah,
and the officer's still fighting for his life.
And how many times have we seen the ambush shootings this year?
Yeah.
And it goes on and on.
Yeah, it goes on and on. And now this report's going to come out, and the very government that they work for, in order to protect the people that they work for, they're just undermining the faith, they're undermining the trust, and really driving a wedge. This is along the same lines of the White House when they drive that wedge in with the racial relations here in our country when they make some of the comments that they make. And this is that, but on a scale of driving a wedge between the community and law enforcement. And look, every time politicians do that, and they drive that wedge in and they release these reports and they cherry pick these statistics, they are making it harder and harder, and it's going to reach a point where it's going to be damn near impossible for those law enforcement agencies to ever repair those relationships and build the trust they need to be effective in those communities. And they're destroying that public trust, and they're destroying that minute chance of even folks being able to come together for a bullshit agenda.
Yeah, and
they really are. And that's the danger of this. And from a financial standpoint, if the city comes out and says that, and they say, oh yeah, the police department's racist, and now the city does absolutely nothing about it, is the city not on the hook for any lawsuits that may come about?
Right.
Hey, you said yourself this was a problem.
Right.
And since this was a problem, how many officers have been fired?
Right.
How many internal investigations have you had?
How much retraining have you done?
How much retraining have you done?
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the people of Chicago need to look, if they want to see the monster, they need to look in the mirror. Most of the people looking back are probably monsters, because they want to blame everyone except for who's actually committing these acts and killing kids and taking family members away. That's the problem.
And they're denigrating those who are sworn to make a difference.
Yep, and the ones who put their lives on the line every day. Hey, we are up against a break. When we come back, you're going to hear from the unpleasant blind guy and his conservative bite. But first, here's a few commercials.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean, Dude, I'm not saying Kaepernick was stupid, bro. Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reverb Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com and HighPlainsDailyNews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And here's 3 minutes with the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, time for an Unpleasant Blind Guy election fight. The American primary season heats up as rival supporters do battle on social media. Accusations, personal attacks, and cleverly photoshopped political photographs fly across the internet as candidates spar in the public arena. Cruz and Trump? No. The real battle goes on between Clinton, Sanders, and Supreme. As the delegate count rises for the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton, having failed to appeal to any human with two brain cells to rub together, has opted to go for the domestic animal vote. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders lays out his plan.
When I talk about democratic socialism, you know what I'm talking about? Poverty for the elderly. And in my view, we should expand that concept to all people.
But Vermin Supreme has launched a devastating campaign showing that above all Democratic candidates, he knows what the people want.
Is there anything you want to say to the people of the Granite State as you're launching your campaign?
Yes, friends, if you vote for me, I will rebuild the old man of the mountain. It will breathe fire and shoot lasers out of its eyes.
Vermin Supreme, the only Democratic candidate that can bring skill and sorcery to interstate commerce.
Any pixie dust?
Totally. It'll be vomiting pixie dust all over Vermont.
While Clinton and Sanders play at socialism, Vermin Supreme not only promises free stuff for the future, he produces the goods immediately.
Supreme, have you given up the promise of a pony for every American?
Never, sir. I would never give up a free pony promise. However, I am promising free candy today. Not only am I promising, I am delivering.
As Clinton and Sanders supporters attack each other with ancient love beads and white privilege punishment paddles, the true collectivists are gathering behind the one real guardian of socialism, Vermin Supreme. Progressives know Supreme's the dream in 2016. This has been an Unpleasant Blind Guy election fight.
I love Vermin Supreme. That guy, I don't want to vote for him, but man.
Why not? Seriously, why not?
Anywho, we do have a great segment coming up here.
We do. The name of this segment is Worldwide A-Holes, a trilogy. And the trilogy is threefold. It's Russia v. USN,
yes,
North Korean barbecue,
yes,
and Iran, an ICBM up your ass.
All right. Well, let's kick it right off, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about Russian a-holes, Russian versus the United States Navy. There were 2 Russian jets that buzzed a naval guided missile destroyer in the Baltic Sea. They were running, it appears, potentially simulated attacks on the destroyer. It was the USS Donald Cook, which was conducting operations in the Baltic Sea, approximately 70 nautical miles, still in international waters, off of the coast. And a Russian jet, they were Russian Su-24 aircraft. I believe it was the same kind that Turkey shot down, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
By the way, a note. When Russia screwed around with Turkey and Turkey shot down that aircraft, Russia didn't want to play anymore.
That's weird, right?
So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. So one of these aircraft, the first jet came within 1,000 yards. The first day, about 1,000 yards of the destroyer, flying about 100 feet off the deck, and doing like a simulated attack.
Strafing.
The next day, or a run for like torpedo or at that, or some anti-ship missile or whatever. The following day, another Russian aircraft came and flew to within 30 feet.
Yes.
Of the destroyer. Within 30 feet. Now there's an agreement that the United States and Russia have, and I believe it dates back to when the Cold War was going on, back to the early 70s, that basically prohibits this type of interaction between these two countries. And here we go again, right? The bear is poking us.
And we're not doing anything about
this time. Look, 30 feet. I want to know what the difference is between, and look, I get that if this were a true attack, that Su-24 would have fired some of the anti-ship missiles that they have, some of the technology, well out of visual range, and I get all that. Right? But if you have an aircraft that's coming in and is flying a profile that is consistent with an attack, that is consistent with strafing, like you've indicated, which is consistent with a torpedo run, which is consistent with firing an anti-ship missile, whatever it is, but they're flying an attack profile, a simulated attack profile. What is the difference between somebody pointing what you believe to be a gun at you on the street and you have to take action and defend yourself,
right,
and this?
Not a whole hell of a lot, in my humble opinion.
No, honestly, how did this naval ship not fire at a foreign aircraft running that was picked up on radar, I would assume, that was running a profile that is consistent with an aircraft that's attacking, particularly given the positioning and the posturing of the Russian Federation in the world today? How do they not fire on that and have it be legitimate self-defense? I understand it would create an international incident. I completely understand that. But are our ships expected to take a hit and be sunk before that happens? Are we not firing? Are we not firing because we have blind faith that this isn't going to be an issue?
Oh, they won't do it. Well, when has Russia ever done anything crazy before?
Right. We remember our segment Crimea River.
Yeah.
And the Ukraine River. And at what point do you have to take defensive measures?
What about back during the Cold War when the Russian ships would slam into our ships on a regular basis?
Right.
I mean, there's been very documented aggression by Russia through the years. And many times that we've just kind of taken it on the chin and walked away. So Russia knows that especially now, we're not going to do anything.
Right. And that's kind of my point. I mean, a collision at sea, a little bit, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit different, in other ships. I don't know. But an aircraft running an attack profile?
Oh, yeah. And
I mean, do we not have the right to self-defense in international waters?
I would think so.
We do. It would be different if this ship was operating in Russian waters.
Right.
Completely different.
Right.
Right. Then, hey, we're the a-holes.
Right. We're in the wrong place at the wrong time, so to speak.
Right. And hey, are we going to 70 nautical miles off their coast because in international waters just to kind of show force because of what they're doing in the world? Maybe. Okay. Look, they fly in international airspace too. They fly their bombers towards us, and we send our stuff up, and they're legal in their international. That's fine. But when you start running attack profiles like that on our ships, or I think that's something different.
Well, and the other thing too is, how do you know when they were coming in? And I don't know. I saw the video.
That was close.
There's a couple different videos, and I don't know if they had already done 1 or 2 flybys, and that's why they had the video out, or they picked them up on radar because they like to videotape these incidents. If it was the first run, and they didn't know that the Su-24 was unarmed, and it was unarmed.
Right. But how do you know that?
Right. How do you know that when it's moving at Mach 1.5, closing, and then slows down as it gets close enough to do a strafing run? How can you identify it?
And I don't know if there's...
Just because it's not locked onto you maybe with the missile? Well, that doesn't mean anything.
I don't know.
How do you know that it wasn't, at the end of the day, how do you know it wasn't just a pilot who's gone crazy and decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to fly into the ship.
Because a Russian pilot has never...
And Russia's had a history of doing aggressive acts in the air and with ships. This has happened before. But like you said, you don't know if it's going to be a strafing run. You have no way of knowing it.
You have no way of knowing that ship's unarmed.
So,
look, I read a report, and I think it was on the Veterans Times or something like that actually talked about another incident involving the same destroyer, I think, where Su-24s came within and actually jammed the Aegis radar system, which is the top of the line system on the aircraft, and the crew was like, oh crap, because they had nothing. And I think the incident was from 2014. If you search the article, I'm sure you can find it. I don't have it in front of me right now. I just remember reading about that incident and involving this ship. Maybe they just don't like this ship. Maybe they just don't like the USS Donald Cook. What do they have against Donald Cook?
Yeah, maybe they don't like Donald.
I think he was a Vietnam veteran who died in captivity.
Well, yeah, and they were on the side of the North Vietnamese during
Oh, so that could be.
Yeah, so November 13th, 2014 is when the report came out in Veterans Today.
Okay.
That
I was right. So 2014, and that was with the jamming.
That was with the jamming, where it jammed the U.S. destroyer Donald Cook was in the neutral waters of the Black Sea on April 10th. Wow. It's almost like the anniversary of the incident when a Russian Su-24 with the newest jamming complex paralyzed the Black Sea with the most modern American combat management system, the Aegis, installed in the destroyer, the Donald Cook. Flew in, jammed it. And we didn't retaliate at all. So maybe they were jammed. But if they were jammed, why were they sitting on the deck with video cameras waiting to see what they were doing?
Maybe they were sitting on the deck because they were jammed, and they all had their life preservers on, and they were getting ready to abandon ship because they were so scared.
That's a good point as well.
No, because they'd have been at battle stations.
Right.
Right?
They would have been ready for it. So either way, the simple fact is there's a stand-down order that's standing. And if the ship... let's just play hypotheticals. I know we get a few other stories to get to that we can bleed into the next segment, but what happens if the ship was attacked?
With some of the anti-ship missiles that those aircraft carry, that
Yes.
ship would be done. Lone destroyer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Done and in the water. Now...
Well, it's already in the water.
Good point, Clint.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I really needed you to explain that the ship in the Black Sea was already in the water.
Well, you said it'd be done and in the water, so I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know if you thought maybe it was one of the stealth ships that converts to like a car, because they have those, right? Maybe the Navy did something like really big. Budget cuts, so maybe there's like an armored destroyer that's capable that turns into a tank. A tank destroyer.
I stand corrected, and thank you so much for pointing that out.
You're welcome.
What else do we have in this segment?
Korean barbecue. So very interesting. North Korea actually came up with and I don't know where they got it, but a historical document. And it's obviously a very valued piece of American history. I have no idea how Little Kim came into possession of this, but it's a letter from Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln?
No, Lincoln.
Oh.
Yeah. And the letter is entitled Advice from Lincoln to Obama. I can't make this up,
well,
folks.
You know... I love this fucking guy.
I know.
How can you not?
Hang on. Let me read you what the letter says, because this is how Lincoln spoke. I'm quoting. Hey, Obama. I know you have a lot on your mind these days. I've decided to give you a little advice after seeing you lost in thought before my portrait during a recent Easter prayer breakfast.
Did he say Abe Lincoln? No, he said, hey, Blinken. Go on.
Wow. So in the letter, Lincoln goes on to talk about, hey, why do you want a nuclear-free world when you won't scale back your own arsenal first? It says, if the United States, a country with the world's largest nuclear weapons stockpile, only pays lip service, like a parrot, and doesn't do anything actively, it will be a mockery to the entire world. Picture Little Kim in his accent saying, only pays lip service like a parrot.
Rip service.
And doesn't do anything actively. Come on, folks. This is hilarious. I got this. This was an Associated Press story. North Korea uses fake Abraham Lincoln letter to criticize Obama.
Hello, America. I have a letter from your own Abraham Lincoln to President Obama.
Seriously. Like, this guy is so... That article was published. That article was published April 12th, 2016. Again, Associated Press.
And then today, dude, this guy runs a country that has nuclear weapons.
I know. Well, they're not supposed to have nuclear weapons,
but he has them. Holy shit! I can barely get the soundboard to work. They won't let me have any more equipment than this. But this jackhole gets nuclear weapons.
Yes.
And tries to pass off a fake letter from Lincoln to Obama.
Whoa. What do you mean fake letter?
A real letter, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Historical document. Historical document. And then, same... 4 days prior to this story coming out, it came out yesterday. 4 days before that, another Associated Press story.
And as we all know, Lincoln said, hey, all the time.
Yes!
Hey!
Yes! Hey, Obama! You know what would have been classic?
What?
If I were North Korea, if I were Little Kim and I penned that letter from Lincoln, I would have said...
I can't get a CCW.
I would have said...
This guy gets nuclear weapons.
Right. I would say, hey, Obama, remember when I freed your people? Time to return the favor. Stop harassing North Korea. That would have been good. Right. You know what? This is along the lines of when I first read that story, I thought about the scene from Dead Poets Society. Phone call from God.
Yes.
If it would have been collect, that would have been funny. Right?
This guy. Oh, hey, just so you guys know, I get this letter from President Lincoln. He wrote it to President Obama. This is like a Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure story.
Right.
Oh, Bill and Kim Jong-un. Get him out here so he can have... Oh, bring Lincoln because he wants to talk to Obama. Excellent.
Take a picture.
Where's Rufus? This is awesome. We have another segment that I don't even want to get to.
No, I'm still on North Korea. North Korea then came out Saturday. So it came out the story came out the 8th. Again, Associated Press on North Korea, saying North Korea says it successfully tests long-range rocket engine, not a long-range rocket engine. Successfully tests long-range rocket engine. Just play that in your head for a second. So
wrong range.
They tested a new intercontinental ballistic rocket engine that will give it the ability to stage nuclear strikes in the United States, they say. This was a ground test. If it was true, this would actually be a huge step for North Korea's nuclear program. But they're not so sure that they actually did this. South Korea officials say they're not really sure that North Korea has reliable ICBM capability yet. A missile, let alone the ability to put a warhead on it. Either way, it just, yeah.
Well, and then the North Koreans today are actually opening up their technology and releasing more and more information about it to kind of prove that they have the capability.
Yeah, all their enemies already have it. So what are you trying to hide secrets from? The third group of a-holes in this trilogy, the final chapter, is...
He's a living cartoon. I know.
He is.
Just said that. Kim Jong-un's a living cartoon. It's like a bad movie. It's almost like a Borat. It's almost like the guy who wrote Borat is writing the North Korea
playbook. Iran. Iran says to the United States, now remember we negotiated that brilliant deal. They're not going to be messing around anymore.
They love us now.
Right? They love us now. We are buddies. They're not going to be having ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons. But Iran's foreign minister on Sunday said that their ballistic missile program is, quote, not open to negotiation.
Oh. Okay. Well, that's a way to negotiate.
Right. Kerry, John Kerry, John Swiftboat Kerry, he said...
John Kerry,
when
reporting for duty.
He was visiting Bahrain, and he said that the U.S. and the Allies were, quote, prepared to work on a new arrangement to find a peaceful resolution in order to solve this dispute over Iranian ballistic missile tests. Didn't they just do that? Yes. Wasn't that the nuclear deal?
Yes.
Shouldn't that have been part of it? Oh, but guess what? It's not. This jackhole negotiated a deal that didn't cover ballistic missile tests.
We totally forgot.
Iran, so we're going to give you all of your assets and money, and you're going to need to do something in return. You're going to have to pose for a photo op with us and giving a thumbs up.
Maybe we can send James Taylor over and have him play them into submission like we did with France.
Wow. Wow. So the U.S. is saying, well, it wasn't part of the Iran nuclear deal. However, these launches that they're doing go against UN Security Council resolutions.
Oh, okay. What are we doing?
Yeah.
How are we going to fucking fix it?
Yeah. So they're launching shit. They're launching shit in violation of the Security Council resolution. Okay. Now what?
Well, and then
to
round it all off, Russia has delivered the first part of the S-300 surface-to-air system that it's selling to Iran. That they sold as soon as the sanctions were lifted.
Oh, good. No, that's going to work out fine.
Yeah, so now they're actually getting air defense for their nuclear
program.
I wouldn't even call it a program at that point.
Their non-nuclear, nuclear ideations?
Oh, man. Absolutely ridiculous.
The U.S. has slapped some sanctions on them, though.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, but they were only on individuals and businesses, not on the whole country.
In order to slow the nuclear process, the United States has issued sanctions to
I didn't
Carl.
know Richard Nixon ever spoke about this.
That's Kerry.
Oh.
To a guy named Carl. Carl owns a small rug shop in Tehran.
Small rug shop. Carl's brother is the snake charmer in the square. And we are looking at sanctioning his business as well.
For PETA reported illegal snake handling.
Further investigation revealed it wasn't actually a real snake. Have you seen the Bugs Bunny skit? Never mind.
We are so screwed. Oh, man, I laugh, but our poor friends in Israel who have to look this in the eye oh, God, we've just hung them out to dry. Prime Minister Netanyahu and the good people of Israel, we're so sorry for the incompetent and downright stupidity of this administration. We love you on this show.
We love you. We love you.
We absolutely love you.
I want to leave our list one piece of good news out of the Middle East. One piece of good news before we go to break. The United States Air Force has deployed B-52s into the Middle East for the first time since the Gulf War ended 25 years ago in order to fight ISIS.
Oh, hey.
I just think it's awesome that Buff is being put in the area.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're not sure what Buff, that is the actual nickname for the B-52.
Yep.
And it stands for Big Ugly Fat Fucker.
Yeah.
And I can't make this up.
And it drops an amazing...
Google Big Ugly Fat Fucker
No.
Just
B-52 - Buff.
Oh.
Much better choice.
Oh.
First flew in 1954, I think.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, it's still around.
Long time ago. Still in service.
Still very much a part of our Air Force. So
right. I'm pretty sure that it could literally drop bombs across the entire span of Russia and into the ocean and then hit Alaska and keep going.
It does carry a lot. Back for the break. We'll update on some of the elections that are going on in this country. Speaking of batshit crazy, all that and more here on the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business? You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying calf was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reverb Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network.
I forgot to tell the story in opening General Jackassery that I do want to get out because I don't want to leave our people without. I've wanted to share this with our listeners and with you ever since I saw this happen. I actually have a photograph to prove it.
Okay.
And I'll show you, but we can't put license plate. I don't think we can post license plates, so I'm kind of hesitant to post it, but I'll show you. I don't know if there's a way Sacco can gray out that plate or whatever, but I was driving.
Send it to me. I can do it.
I was driving, and this vehicle passed me, and like the windows were down, dude was kind of leaned back in the car, and it was a silver kind of the picture. The car looks nicer than it was, but it was like paint chipped and everything else off this Kia, and I'd say it was like a mid 2000s model Kia. I'm not sure, 2005-ish. I don't know. And it was like, oh, okay, the guy kind of passed me. He was driving a little bit, kind of, almost like a knucklehead, but not really. Just kind of went by me kind of quick or whatever. And I was kind of like, it's one of the cars you look at and you're kind of like, yeah, okay. The license plate absolutely killed me. The license plate was GHTO.
Ghetto.
JAG.
Ghetto Jag. Ghetto Jag, baby.
I thought it was awesome.
You know what? I want to high five that dude.
That's what I was like. I couldn't be mad at him for hauling butt past me. I actually just was like, okay, that dude has a sense of humor. I'm going to forward this to you.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, so
hang on, it's incoming, just so you can verify my.
Okay.
And on the way to you. I thought that was great. Who does that?
I don't know, but I love it. Let's see. We're gonna get into the election. It's exhausting. This election cycle is just driving me insane. We'll start since we last talked. Wisconsin took place. Sanders won Wisconsin. Let's start with the Dems. 48 delegates to Clinton's 38. Wyoming, Sanders 7 to Clinton 7, kind of a tie. And the next one's New York, 247 delegates up for grabs for the Dem side. But listen, we already know Hillary has the super delegates, 469 to Sanders 31. It's a rigged system. Hillary's going to win the nomination, barring something major. For the Republicans, Wisconsin, Cruz won with 36 delegates. Trump got 6. Next up is a big one, is New York, 95 delegates. Currently, right now, Trump has 743, Cruz has 545, and look at Kasich breaking the 100 mark.
Oh, that's cute.
With 854 still remaining total. April 26th is the next kind of big day as far as multiple. You're going to have Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. And then we'll get into May and June, and we'll get on. And the next big delegates for the Republicans is Indiana, which will have 57 on May 3rd, Nebraska and West Virginia on the 10th, 36 and 34 respectively. This is going to come down to the wire for the Republicans. It's a done deal for the Democrats. Like I said, unless Hillary's in an orange jumpsuit, we all know who it's going to be. But, you know, it's going to be an interesting fight going down the stretch here. And listen, Trump's lost some steam going into Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Cruz is picking up steam.
Mm-hmm. Trump is steamed.
Yeah, Trump is steamed. So it's going to be interesting. You know, there's some harsh words being thrown around, as there had been.
I think the term nanny boo-boo was used at one point.
But, you know, for all of the back and forth that's going on in the Republicans, there was a big blowout on the Democrat side between Hillary Clinton and a Greenpeace supporter who she believed was a Sanders supporter. And when it asked about money coming from oil companies into Hillary's campaign, she blew up at her. And if you see the video, it's pretty harsh. And it was definitely, you know, she's screaming, I'm sick of the Sanders campaign spreading these lies, et cetera, et cetera. So it's nice to see Hillary a little rattled. And it's nice to see that people are calling her out on her BS. And listen, I don't care per se, but you can't sit there and talk about being for the environment and have the oil companies in your corner. And Hillary has some oil money behind her. There's no doubt about it. Now, I think global warming is BS, and I've talked about this before, but when you're running on it and you're trying to be the virgin white candidate, if you will, and doing everything right according to your party, and you have big oil in your corner, you're going to get caught up in it, and it's going to bite you in the arse. And Hillary's getting caught up into it. Now, is it going to change the outcome? No. It probably will not change any sort of the outcome. And like I said, the big one is going to be what happens with the Republicans and who's going to be the nominee. Like I said, all these people threatening to leave the country, if Trump is the nominee, it may be enough to get me to vote for him.
I want to sidebar for a second, if I can.
Yeah,
you mentioned big oil, and it reminded me of a story I saw this week, that there are Democrats throughout the United States that are taking, quote, big oil companies to task, particularly on global warming, and they're doing it the same way they went after tobacco. Do you remember when they went after the tobacco industry, saying that the tobacco industry knew that their product caused cancer and they misled the people? Well, these Democrats out of Massachusetts, the U.S. Virgin Islands, I think Kamala Harris out of California, is going after these ExxonMobil and some of these other companies, basically under the same premise, saying that these companies know about global warming.
Yes.
And they're continuing to mislead customers and investors. When global warming's not freaking settled. Like cancer, cigarette smoke causes, that's pretty definitive.
Right.
Right?
And
I don't know that you can find many reports that say, yeah, it's really good for you.
And just because sort of mob rule in a lot of these circles are saying it's definitive doesn't mean it is, because you have a lot of people who are counteracting it.
Right.
And you have a lot of scientists. Right. It's not just guys like me who's like, hey, this is bullshit.
Right.
And, you know, I always have the argument when I talk about global warming, be like, well, you look at the trends the Earth went through. We've been through ice ages.
No, we haven't.
And then we've been through ridiculous hot spells.
No, we haven't.
And then ice age again.
No, the weather's always been exactly the same forever. It's never changed or varied.
Right, and that was before man existed. The Earth,
I think.
When the Ice Age went away, does that mean the Earth was warming already? Weird. And also a message from Agador saying, Clint, these are also the same people advocating legalizing marijuana.
What do you mean these people?
Democrats. I think he means Democrats. So, you know, it just goes to show you the insanity that's going on with the left right now. And another great insanity, Mark, if I may. I got this story off youngconservatives.com, youngcons.com. 74-year-old socialist Bernie Sanders has been having a hard time on the campaign trail lately. He's won a few primaries, etc., etc. But then he decided to attack Verizon for no reason and make audacious claims that they haven't paid a nickel in taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Not a nickel, according to Bernie Sanders. However, the CEO for Verizon responded, and I quote, Sanders' first accusation that Verizon doesn't pay their fair share of taxes is just plain wrong, Lowell McAdam wrote in a LinkedIn piece. Our financial statements clearly show we've paid more than $15.6 billion in taxes over the last 2 years. That's a 35% tax rate in 2015 for anyone who's counting.
Wow.
I challenge Senator Sanders to show me a company that's done more than to invest in America than Verizon has. So Bernie Sanders trying to get big companies and capitalism, all terrible bullshit. $15.6 billion in taxes over the last 2 years. Think about how much money that is. And I applaud this guy. I don't know his politics, Lowell McAdam, or anything. I don't know anything about him, really. But he's just, again, it goes back to the Alinsky approach, right? Just keep saying the same thing over and over again until it's true. And that's what he's doing. He just throws out these names of these companies and they've never paid taxes. Oil companies have never, ever paid taxes. Okay, well, let's say Exxon has never paid taxes. Just leave it there for a second. I don't agree, but let's leave it there for a moment. That oil that they're selling gets taxed 30 times before it even hits the pump, and then the consumer gets taxed on it again, federal, state, and local. So don't say they never pay taxes on the oil, because they do. That oil, like everything else in our world, is taxed repeatedly.
Right.
Before it gets to you. Import tax, export tax, refining locations. They're paying taxes for the refining facilities in different cities and states, and federally they have to be licensed. So it just amazes me what the left will throw out there just because they think it's going to gain them the attention they're seeking.
Right. I want to talk, I know we have an election block, but I want to talk about race real quick.
Okay.
Particularly race relations.
Okay.
And
it's a very racy show.
I'm about to prove that there is no such thing as a race. That we all came from the same exact place. And I'm not going to go biblical, I'm going to go scientific because I'm going to use the left's argument against them. We refer to people a lot of times as European, North American, African, right?
Yes.
It's African descent, of European descent,
very common.
Of Central American descent,
very
right?
Common.
Almost continental, right? Referenced by in continental terms. We can also reference in specific country terms, right? Like Irish American,
yep,
or Spanish American,
yep,
or whatever, right? Whatever the case is. But I had a conversation with somebody, very, very smart individual today, somebody far smarter than me, and they talked about they mentioned Pangea. Pangea was a supercontinent.
Yes.
And the conversation went something like this: there was a supercontinent Pangea. Aha, yes, I said, and then the conversation said, well, wait a second, aren't we all Pangean? Because the left believes in this whole cycle and evolution, and well, if that's the case, then we're all Pangean.
Right.
We're not Caucasian, Mongoloid,
and I've never been to the country
Negroid.
of Caucasia. Never heard of it.
We're not, and those are the terms. So I started researching supercontinents. And did you know that according to this geologic history, this supercontinent theory, there were like 7 supercontinents? The first one was Ur, U-R. If that was the first supercontinent 3,600 million years ago, then we're all Urian.
Urian.
Then I think we were all because that's what started it all, right? That's the first continent ever. But if you want to go back, because Pangean actually sounds cooler, then we could all be Pangean. That was the last supercontinent before it broke up to what's modern-day Europe and Africa and North America. If you believe in this.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was there to witness it.
Well, no, I mean, that's just silly.
But I think that most of the people that, really draw those racial distinctions and really kind of want to focus on those race relations tend to be of the leftish variety who tend to have perhaps more scientific views than biblical views. Not all, but some. So we're Pangean. I'm going to start putting that on applications and resumes.
Well, I mean...
Brilliant young man I was speaking with today. There you go, folks. Here on the Sackheads Radio Show, we just proved that race is bullshit and we all came from the same place. And we did it scientifically, not biblically.
Right.
Boom.
Amazing. Done.
Amazing.
Done.
Yes.
We're all Pangean.
We're all Pangean.
I'm going to put down P on my next government application.
Right. Or Urian. Or Kenorlandan. Protpangean. Colombian. Colombia was the fourth supercontinent. Columbia or Nuna. N-U-N-A.
Ooh, I'm Colombian.
You could be Rhodinian. Panotean. I'm going to put that because it sounds like panties. Or Pangean.
The oldest bones that we've found so far, according to Agador in the chat room,
were his.
Have been in
Sorry,
Africa.
We're what?
We're in Africa. So he says we're all African.
No, we're not. We're Pangean. Is he not listening to the damn segment? We told you what you can be. You can be Urian, Kenorlandian, Colombian, Pantian.
It's... Pantheon.
I know, I like that one.
Pantheon. I am a Pantheon.
It sounds like something from Star Trek. I don't watch Star Trek. Sorry. You're obviously not smart because that's geologic and...
Jim, you can't mess around with that girl. She's a Pantheon.
I like messing around with panties.
No bones, and I can't wait to get her Pantheons off her.
Jim, that's illogical.
Jim, I will join you in this illogical charge.
You can't procreate with a Pantonian. All right, I had an ADD moment. I apologize.
No,
you were talking about the election.
No, we can move on. I'm going to have my ADD moment. So you know how every once in a while, and I didn't know this, I like to go through and read some history just to...
Once in a while you do.
Well, I like to pick a subject. I go to World War II a lot. And obviously, one of the biggest names for World War II and one of the, was General Patton, George S. I didn't know... And considering I'm from Boston, I should know this. I didn't know that he spent a lot of time in the Boston area when he was stateside. His wife was from the area. His son, who's also a general through Vietnam, and a lot of people don't know that either, a great general, was born and actually retired in Massachusetts. But I also got into the circumstances surrounding his death.
Bill O'Reilly wrote a great book.
Yes, and
great book,
I don't know
Killing
how
Patton.
I don't know how I missed all that.
I told you about that book.
And you know what? You're right. You probably did. And you know me. Some things just go in one ear and out the other when you talk.
Yeah. All the time.
All the time. And I always knew, I knew there was a little something hinky there. But as you start reading into it.
Did you read that book?
I did not read that book. Everything I read were kind of sources from the Times and then people who've come out since. 24-mile-an-hour car accident. Nobody else in the car was injured except for Patton, who had a broken neck and was allegedly paralyzed from the neck down. We all know that Patton, even at the time, even though he was sent to essentially run Germany and be the head military governor, if you will, of Germany at the time.
The Fuhrer.
The Fuhrer. Was it extremely outspoken against the Russians and believed that they were the biggest threat that were going at the time?
And he was right.
And he was 100% right. That the administration at the time, Eisenhower, Truman, was petrified of what he had to say. He kept trying to hide him, and he wouldn't go away.
Yep.
And then when you go back, when you look at his story, he was dyslexic. He had a hard time learning. But all he ever wanted to do was lead men in the military into battle and protect the nation. And he went out of his way to be a better student so he could advance further in the military. He took a lot of do-nothing jobs and then a lot of great jobs. His tank, even Rommel stated that he was one of the best tank tacticians he'd ever seen.
Yep.
And that's from the Desert Fox. I mean, that was the guy who
wrote the book, literally.
Literally wrote the book on tank warfare. And just amazing how he was the one, I think Hitler referred to him as the cowboy general. He was the one they truly feared when they were trying to set up all the decoys for D-Day. They kept throwing out his name in different attacks, hoping it would draw more troops because they knew they were afraid of him. And it's so funny when you have politics cross into the military. And in that case, Patton was like, hey, I know the Russians. He also knew the Muslims. He read the Quran and understood that you can't really change these people. They're going to do what they're going to do. And he made a lot of comments like that. Everyone likes to quote, like he made like one nice comment about the Muslims in the Middle East. Everyone likes to quote that one, but it's almost like when Franklin brought the copy of the Quran back to Jefferson. They forget what he was said after he brought it back. They just, Jefferson kept a copy of the Quran and Franklin got it when he was in England meeting the Pasha, blah, blah, blah. They forget that Franklin came with a warning about what the book said and what the people who followed it believed. And then you look at politics in the military, and this is very much brought forth today, and how because he was so outspoken and he knew the right thing to do and the government didn't have the gumption to do it, he got removed and kind of pushed aside. And unfortunately, he tried to turn it into, or they tried to turn him into almost like a lunatic. And he died in that car accident. Same thing with MacArthur, with Korea. MacArthur had a plan to go after the North Koreans, and once again, he was removed and kind of turned into a lunatic in the press and all this other stuff. And
yeah, the guy that saw the Japanese surrender on the USS Missouri.
Yeah, has no idea.
Yeah, he's got no idea what he's talking about.
The guy that the country of the Philippines made a field marshal to lead their troops. The guy who had just an amazing push during World War II didn't understand. And we see that today, right? You see all these recommendations from the military and what we should do, and you have all these generals speaking about it, and the government nowadays just turns around and, yeah, that's all well and good, but we're not going to do that. You have career soldiers who come out and tell you how you should be dealing with certain conflicts, and the government ignores it. Oh, peace. We're just going to go for we're not going to do this, we're going to do that. When we started getting to the point that we were more worried about the politics that would come out versus the result of the military action that we were trying to achieve.
Yep.
Collateral damage and rebuilding nations, and it really started with Vietnam. And MacArthur warned Kennedy and LBJ about Vietnam, and essentially said, if you're not going to go in, don't go in at all. And that's when politics started becoming the bigger issue in wars, and really started costing more and more of our soldiers their lives. Because you have ridiculous rules of engagement, you have this whole rebuilding process that we're going through, et cetera, et cetera.
You have the 2-2-3 as the round that the soldiers use.
Yeah.
We have breaking news.
Yes.
I don't want to interrupt you too long, but
No,
we
go
have
ahead.
breaking news. 3 minutes left. The Golden State Warriors just officially set the NBA record for most wins in a season, 73-9. They set another record this year when their win last game. For the first time in NBA history, they avoided all back-to-back losses throughout the season, and now they own the best record in the history of basketball at 73-9 season. So congratulations to the Golden State Warriors.
Hey, good for them.
That just came in.
Well,
so I want to get that out there.
Hey, throw it out there. Hey, coming up after us, the Sackheads, right here on SHRmedia.com.
For those of you who don't know, the Golden State Warriors play right next to the Oakland Athletics, so that's why Sean's all boo-boo faced right now.
Not boo-boo faced at all.
Go ahead.
So there's a great show that we've added to the network called Spaced Out Radio. If you've ever heard about aliens or other kind of outlandish stuff like that some people still believe in and other people don't. But this show's a little bit different. It's not. It's very. Have you ever heard George Norrie's show?
No.
You never heard George Norrie's show? Well, it's kind of like that, and it's cool. If you have a chance, give it a listen. There's some really good stuff on it. Make some interesting articles, and they have some really good interviews and stuff like that. You got to sometimes do something a little bit different. And even if you just want to sit and listen and giggle at it, do that too. But it's a very well-produced show, and you got to check it out. It's called Spaced Out Radio. It's fun. It really is fun. You're looking at me like I'm a lunatic right now. Hey, we have to make the tough decisions in life. I can't wait for the conversation after we get off the air. This is going to be a blast. Oh, man. Folks, that's it here for the Sackheads Radio Show. We'll be back next Wednesday at 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, right here on SHRmedia.com. Make sure you check out all the great shows here on SHR Media. High Plains Pundit Radio with Dan Butcher and Dave Milner is great. Great show last week. They just do an awesome job. Of course, High Plains Pundit is our media partner and our news partner. It's absolutely great. Jersey Joe, Reaver of Common Sense, check him out. Kel Fritzy, if you want to catch her show, it's on here as well. So Dan just said in the chat room, the guys from Spaced Out make way more sense than Alex Jones ever does. So all that. We will see you next week, folks. Have a great rest of your week.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
Into the silo.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.